Midway, directed by Roland Emmerich, starring Ed Skrein, Patrick Wilson, Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, Luke Evans, and Aaron Eckhart. It tells the story of the crucial battle between the American and Japanese navies in 1942. In fact, it starts with the initial attack on Pearl Harbor that famously took the US forces by surprise and essentially dragged them into the Second World War. And then the 6 month period between Pearl and the Battle of Midway, with all the events that led up to it and the battle itself, from the perspective of American pilots, sailors, admirals, and intelligence officers, as well as the Japanese Admiral Yamamoto. So, if you're hoping for a gritty, accurate, deep war film, keep looking. Midway has made it very clear, even in the trailers, that it's aiming to be a rather cookie cutter, typical American feel good war movie with explosions and the flag waving in the wind and patriotism and more explosions and silly one liners and brave men with square jaws and more explosions. A popcorn film meant to amaze with the action sequences rather than explore the depths of psychology or explain the intricacies of Warcraft. Now, that would have been fine if it was executed well, but it isn't. It's okay. I'll start with what's supposed to be the movie's strength, so the action. Unfortunately, the CGI and especially the green screens look cheap and artificial. The way the planes behave, the way characters are superimposed on those explosive backgrounds, the way light and color work in the film, it all just looks fake, like the planes and ships are plastic models and not the real thing. There is no weight to the objects, and so as a result, there is no tension. We're not there with the characters. Repeatedly, it made me think of the dogfights in Dunkirk, how much rudimentary they were, literally just three fighter planes and Tom Hardy with a mask on his face. But because those were real planes with actual cameras strapped onto them, those sequences looked fucking jaw dropping. Compare that with Midway, where we have dozens of planes, dozens of ships, hundreds of people, bullets flying every which way, fire here, explosion there, but everything looks fake and the suspense is simply not there. The second problem has to do with the storytelling. First of all, there are so many characters in the film that I feel like it's hard to empathize with any of them because we just don't spend enough time with them. We keep jumping between perspectives, so one scene it's the pilots, then it's the admiral, then it's another admiral or the Japanese forces, and that's not something inherently wrong. Let's make that clear. There are many movies where shifting perspectives work. Even Dunkirk, which I already mentioned, does that quite well. But this comes down to understanding the tools of storytelling. Switching characters should always be used to get the audience, to give the audience more perspective, to give us additional information that we could otherwise not have, to improve the narrative flow of the story. Think of it like having a puzzle containing of multiple pieces, and by switching perspectives, you connect them. The issue, once again, lies in execution. Despite the fact that we jump around, the movie has a really hard time explaining what's going on. Remember, the film covers 6 months of real time, but a lot of those cuts between scenes are not very clear about the passage of time, and more importantly, about the current state of things on the front. I mean, okay, I get it, it's not a movie about military strategy, but I would kill for a short or scene or two with just a simple map showing what's going on, who's winning, where are the forces of the US and Japan, why is Midway significant for any of them, basically what's happening. We get none of that, and as it stands, if you're not a history buff already familiar with the events, you'll simply feel lost. Instead of a structured narrative that moves logically from one point to another to the next one, the film instead feels more like a random string of scenes and sequences that don't really necessarily have a lot to do with one another. So, like, there will be a scene where the pilots land in Pearl and have a party with dancing and drinking, and we're just told they're refueling and reprovisioning. That's okay, but where are they going next? When? What's the situation in the campaign? Are they in a rush or has everything stabilized and they can take their time? No goddamn clue. And also, going back to sympathizing with the characters, when I say that you're switching perspectives, you would imagine it goes something like this: character A, character B, character C, A, B, C, and so on, at least roughly. But Midway doesn't really follow that rule, so the first half is largely focused on Ed Skrine's character, and if we assume he's character A, okay, it's something like this: A, B, A, C, A, D, and then A again. And then, at one point, he just disappears from the film altogether for like 25 minutes or so. And then he's back. What the hell has happened in the editing room? Because clearly, those most glaring issues are a result of poor editing and awful sequencing of scenes. Yes, the director is surely to blame to some extent as well, the director and the direction of the film. But just the way the various scenes are spliced together is absolutely terrible. You can even see that echoed in the music and the overall tone. Many of the transitions are just jarring and make little sense. And unfortunately, that's my main takeaway from the film, that feeling of jarring, messy editing, which makes Midway into a barely comprehensible festival of explosions and characters appearing on the screen in random order to just say their lines. Which is a shame, I think, because I do think that the Battle of Midway and the whole campaign, even more so, would deserve its story to be told properly. But this film tries to be a very shallow and easy take on that story, and fails even at that.